Hi everybody! Since we finished our pattern project, we're going to start a new project in which we're going to start to use SketchUp. We're going to pre-engineer the project and then we're going to cut it out on the laser cutter. This project is called the Intersecting 3D Square and it involves positive and negative space. In general, a composition is how something is placed within the picture plane. That could be a canvas, that could be a piece of paper. And in this case, it's going to be a square shape that we're going to make two of and put together. So what is positive space? Positive shapes are the shapes of actual objects, or it refers to the subject or areas of interest in an artwork, such as a person's face or figure in a portrait, the objects in a still life, or the trees in a landscape painting. So those main subjects are considered the positive space. Negative space is the space that's around the positive space. So negative shapes are the areas between these objects. It also refers to the background or the area that surrounds the object of work. And we're going to explore that in a minute. So here's an example. If you look on the left side, you might see a vase. If you look on the right side, you might see two faces. In both cases, the images are exactly the same, but we've used black to create the positive space, and we've used white to create the negative space. And so generally, you tend to see the black space first, and that would be considered the positive space. And then whatever is surrounding it would be the negative space. Let's look at some examples. In the one here on the left, what do you see first? Do you see faces first, or do you see a vase first? Whatever you see first, whether it's the dark space or the lighter space, whichever one you see first is considered the positive space. Here we have in the middle another example, and maybe you see the vase first here, but then do you see the outline of the faces here? The faces are tilted up a little bit. It's a little bit different from the one on the left, so maybe you see it a little bit differently, but if you look at both, you can see that there are two faces that are mirrored that are looking up slightly. On the one here, I'm guessing that most of you see an apple core with a leaf. But if you look carefully, you might also see that there's a slightly kind of softer looking face on either side of that apple. So depending on how you use the positive and negative space, you can change up the edges to make people see different things, or you can add something like a leaf in this case, which makes it very clear that you would probably see the apple first. On the left here, what do you see? Think about it for a minute. Now most of you might see kind of something that looks like a bug. Well, maybe it is a bug. I'm not sure. It could be a moth. However, if some of you look carefully on the darker side, maybe you see a hand here. And then if you go around, you see the head. And then you see the shoulders of the person with the other hand with the thumbs up. And this is mirrored on the other side. This would be the darker side and considered the negative space. On the one on the right, I don't know what you see. Type in, well, if I can get this to work, type in what you think you see here. And then look carefully. Maybe it looks again like a little bit of a moth shape. But look carefully now in the white section. Do you see the seahorse? Here's the snout. Here's the head. And then here's the belly and the fin here, and the tail wraps around. So it's a seahorse. The white is a seahorse shape, and then flipped on the other side. Here we see a different example on the left. How many of you see the cougar head here? Maybe you see a tooth And here's the eye and the ear, and then the mouth where it's open, you see the shape of the cat. Do you see the mouse? See if you can see the mouse. Over here, we have a positive and negative shape where it looks kind of like a dragon or something is hugging a bear. So that's another way to look at positive and negative space. Did you find the mouse yet? It's right here. You can also do the same thing with letters. So it doesn't have to be animals or it doesn't have to be shapes. It could be letters. Here you can see part of an R, and then maybe you see the upside down A. It's a lowercase a. Maybe you see that. On the right-hand side, how many letters do you see? I see potentially 3. This is an F. The lighter color is an F. And then the darker color is a B, but there also could be an I right here. Now here we have something called balance. And that's when the amount of darker and lighter space are equal, even though it's not divided in half. So the one on the left here, I would ask you, think about which color is more dominant, that you see more of. And this is actually fairly equal. And then on this side, it's maybe a little bit more heavy on the lighter color. So this brings us to symmetric design and asymmetric design. Symmetric means that it's equal on both sides, and you can see here in this image. One side is equal to the other side. Over here on the right, we have this side repeated, but on the other side, it's a little bit different. And so that makes it asymmetric, which basically means not symmetric. And here we have some designs. Can you tell which is the symmetric design and which is the asymmetrical design? Symmetric design means that it's balanced, and asymmetric means that if I were to draw a line through it, it would not be the same on either side. So let me know what you think is the symmetrical design here. Here we have another one. Show me which one you think is the symmetrical design, the one on the left or the one on the right. Here we have another one. Same thing. Which one is symmetrical? Now remember, a symmetrical design doesn't always have to be right down the middle. It can also be on the side, or it can go from an angle. Pick which ones you think are symmetrical here. I'm going to try to make a little game out of this. So if I'm able to do it, you can try it out interactively. I might link a form. If not, it's okay. You can skip this slide. So how does this apply to our project? Well, this is the design process, and you might remember this from when we did our pattern design. First, we're going to look at empathy. Empathy means that you understand, or you try to find examples of things that might inspire your design. You might ask people questions. It applies in a lot of different ways. But for us, we're going to use it in the form of inspiration boards or idea boards, just like we did with the pattern project, if you remember. Then the definition of the project, which I'm defining for you, is to create a composition of positive and negative space to be laser cut into 2 pieces of 3-inch by 3-inch square to create an intersecting square. In other words, a 3D cube. Next, we're going to ideate and I want you to draw at least 3 different designs, and you'll see that in the assignment. I should be back in school by this time, so then when we get to the refining phase and the SketchUp information, I'll be here to run you through that. Then you're going to lay it out in SketchUp, and then you're going to pre-engineer the assembly and make adjustments as you need it. So I hope you're excited about the project. This is kind of fun and a very good intro, so you'll know all the things you need to do for the next project. So next class, what I'd like you to do is make an inspiration board. I will post an assignment for that. And it should look something like this. You should have at least 6 images on it, and you should look for black and white imagery that appeals to you that you might use in your own design. Then you're going to use your inspiration boards to sketch 3 different ideas for the design of your square using a template that I'm going to provide you. Remember that you are making a new design for the square and not copying the one from your inspiration board. You will also need to decide whether the design is single direction or can be upside down, as you'll be making 2 pieces of the same design that intersect. So some things to think about are, do not make narrow lines. The laser cutter cannot do thin lines, but you want to keep the thickness of the lines about 1/8 of an inch wide. The design should attach to the border so that it doesn't fall out, and a line represents a cut on the laser cutting machine. And this is what your ideation sketches will look like. You can see here that each piece is attached to this frame, and this frame will be cut out, but you can do whatever design you want in the frame. You'll also notice that there's no lines going through. So we'll be probably doing this on Thursday. These are examples of a single direction design, meaning it's only in one direction, and this is a multi-directional design. Then what we'll be doing is we'll be isolating the design, bringing it into SketchUp, and actually redrawing it to actual size in the SketchUp software. Then we'll be pulling it up, we'll be pulling a copy, pulling it up, rotating it, and then making sure that it fits together, just like it shows here. And then this will be your final design that we will use to cut out on the laser cutter. So next class, we're going to start your inspiration board, and I look forward to seeing what you do.